Story recapped here. Today I'm going to explain a fantasy, drama, and sci-fi show called The Twilight Zone: Downtime. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Michelle Weaver is a hotel hospitality employee dedicated to her job. One day, she prepares to speak with her boss Reggie about her promotion to the managerial position. She enters his office and catches him staring outside the window. However, Michelle focuses on the goal and begins talking about the promotion. Reggie struggles to keep his attention on her because he's preoccupied with what he was staring at earlier. Realizing this, Michelle begins to woo her boss with her qualifications, but he seems uninterested. Still hoping to get on his good side, Michelle brings up a story about a store clerk who impressed both her boss and an angry customer, only to reveal that she was the quick-thinking clerk in the story. As she tells this, she maintains a strong and confident image, which seems to get to Reggie. After she tells the story, Reggie laughs because he finds it hilarious. Finally, Michelle gets to the point and tells him that she's been working hard, so she's fit for the managerial role. With that, Reggie hands her a nameplate, confirming that she had bagged the position even before she came to see him. Michelle can barely hide her excitement and thanks her boss for trusting her. Before she leaves, Reggie tells her that she picked the right life. Shortly after, Michelle leaves the room and is immediately congratulated by her coworkers. As Michelle makes her way to the lobby, she gets congratulated and greeted by more employees. However, she notices that a heated argument is brewing at the front desk between Jeffrey, the concierge, and the Desmonds, a stingy couple. The couple insists that they paid for the king suite, but didn't get the room as the one they have has only 3 windows, when in the brochure, the king suite has 4. Before things escalate, Michelle butts in the conversation and upgrades them to the penthouse suite with no charge. Seeing that she easily averted the situation, Jeffrey thanks her in awe. She advises him that when clients are unreasonable, he has to be extra reasonable. Michelle heads to a cafe during her break and calls her husband, Carl, to tell him about the promotion. As expected, he congratulates her and tells her they'll celebrate when she returns home. After she ends the call, Michelle suddenly goes into a deep shock and struggles to catch her breath. When she recovers, she realizes that everyone is weirdly staring at the sky as if in a trance. Curious, Michelle goes outside and sees everyone doing the same thing, creeping her out. Looking up at the sky, she sees a giant red orb that overlooks the city. It suddenly emits a reverberating, ear-piercing noise that only seems to affect her. A woman approaches Michelle and asks how long the downtime will be. Confused, Michelle only looks at her, but she immediately leaves when the woman stares at the orb with her jap agape. Not long after, everyone in the city stands still and stares at the orb with their mouths open. As this happens, Michelle runs around the city, looking for someone conscious. She reaches her neighborhood and spots an unaffected police officer. Michelle immediately approaches him and asks if he knows what's going on. The police officer chuckles and responds that it's merely a scheduled world maintenance. Confused, Michelle asks what they should do about it, and the police officer says that she simply needs to wake up. Suddenly, he drops his coffee and stares at the orb with his mouth wide open. Scared, Michelle runs to her house and calls for Carl. Luckily, he's doing fine and is unaffected, so she explains what's happening outside. Carl seems confused at first, but he suddenly starts talking in an Irish accent and claims that it's just a downtime signal. Thinking he's joking around, Michelle tells him to be serious, but her husband acts like a different person and even claims that his name is Danny. Carl goes downstairs and says he's going to wake up. However, Michelle is done with her husband's pranks and reminds him of his identity. Still, Carl exclaims that she really doesn't know her true identity, so she needs to wake up too. Shortly after, he exits the house with Michelle following him. Before he goes, Carl reassures her that he will contact some people to help her remember who she is. After this, he succumbs to the orb's power. Scared, Michelle pleads with her husband not to leave her alone, but it's too late. Unable to do anything else, she hurriedly goes back to the house. Later on, 2 young skateboarders enter the house and inform Michelle that they're from customer service. Upon seeing them, Michelle defends herself with a knife and commands the boys to leave. Although she's being hostile, the boys remain calm and ask her if she knows who she is. However, Michelle only gets angry because she's been hearing that question all day. To mitigate the situation, one of the boys removes the knife by dissolving it in into thin air. Michelle gets horrified by this, but one of the boys tells her that they're going to play something on her TV, which will explain everything that's going on. Shortly after, Michelle watches a video for Sleep Away, a digital program package for identity tourism. It's an alternate reality, monitored and controlled by certain servers. As one approaches REM sleep, Sleepaway's patented subsonic suggestion technology will sync a user to a server. Once engaged, the person can create an avatar or select a pre-made one randomly. With Sleepaway, anyone can live a different life while they sleep. And when their character's day ends, the user can wake up and resume their own lives. However, they must remember the only rule, which is to never break character. Seeing this, Michelle gets overwhelmed with the fact that she's a character played by somebody else. She finds this hard to believe, but one of the boys confirms this and that she's played by a man named S. Phineas Lowell. Phineas customized her, and everything she has now is a consequence of his gameplays. However, he accidentally left his consciousness synced to Michelle when he had a heart attack and fell into a coma during his last game session. Hearing this, Michelle remembers the shock she felt at the cafe and how it must be Phineas having a heart attack. Suddenly, one of the boys claims that they need to do a force unsync to restore Phineas. The idea scares Michelle, so she clarifies what that would do to her. When the boy calls her Sir, she asserts that they're not talking to Phineas, but to Michelle. Panicked, she rambles how she just got her promotion today, which she earned using her own blood, sweat, and tears. She insists that it's her life, so she refuses to undergo the process and claims that she'll wait until the downtime is over so everything will go back to normal. Before they could respond, one of the boys receives a call and agrees to send someone over. A woman then enters the room, and the boys explain that she's Ellen, Phineas' wife and emergency contact. Ellen speaks with Michelle as if she has Phineas memories, which she doesn't. After this, she stops the boys from doing a force unsync and demands to talk to Michelle alone. Later on, the orb announces that maintenance will finish in 20 minutes. Meanwhile, Michelle and Ellen walk outside to talk. There, Ellen tells Michelle that she knows that her husband chose her to be his avatar because she's in control, strong, and beautiful. Hoping to trigger a memory, Ellen recounts how she and Phineas first met at an antique shop. She continues how he proposed to her, and this reminds Michelle of what she said to her back then. With that, Ellen explains that if Phineas doesn't unsync soon, he'll be lost forever. Seeing her sadness, Michelle admits that she feels a distant connection with Ellen as if she'd known her whole life. Suddenly, Ellen kisses her and says she can feel her husband, but he probably doesn't know the way out. For a second, Michelle sympathizes with her and finally agrees to help her by trying to wake up. Together, they face the orb to wake up, but Michelle backs out at the last second, letting Ellen wake up alone. Later on, the skateboarders cruise the city in search of Michelle. Unbeknownst to them, she's hiding among the civilians so she can run back to the hotel. There, she sneakily grabs a penthouse key and goes to the suite to hide. There, she finds the Desmonds and even pushes Mr. Desmond to test if he really is in a trance. He immediately falls to the floor, proving that he truly is an immobilized character. After a while, Michelle lies in bed, trying to process her next move. Just then, she hears a tapping noise by the window, and when she goes to check, she sees a pigeon. The pigeon suddenly emits a loud echoing noise that summons the skateboarders to the hotel. The skateboarders see Michelle by the window, so she immediately makes a run for it. Shortly after, the orb announces that world maintenance will end in 5 minutes. Meanwhile, the skateboarders enter the hotel while Michelle figures a way out. Seeing the elevator arriving on her floor, she quickly heads to the fire exit instead but finds another skateboarder there. She eventually ends up on the roof, where she meets a man named Tom. Tom politely approaches her and says that he's from the escalated priority customer service. He apologizes for the inconvenience that the downtime brought her. However, Michelle is too worried about the skateboarders and commands Tom to call them off. Tom assures her that he already did and explains that they were just trying to help solve the unforeseen error. He admits that the program has been experiencing many issues lately, including how some users enter a laundromat and exit through a manhole. However, Michelle's issue is uncommon, and he admits that they're still unsure how the situation ended as it did. Then, Tom reminds her that downtime is about to end, and people are going to log in, so something needs to be done before then. Hearing this, Michelle takes a moment to breathe, but Tom interrupts her thoughts. He tells her that she can continue her life as Michelle, but she needs to sign a waiver that frees Sleep away from any responsibility. Michelle thinks this means that they're not taking accountability for their mistakes, so she refuses to sign the waiver. Instead, she wants to wake up because she can't live a life knowing that everything around her is fake. Although she knows nothing of Phineas' life, she's willing to give it a shot instead of staying there. However, Tom tells her to forget about Phineas because his heart attack did not happen by accident. He reveals that Phineas actually drank a sleeping pill smoothie before sinking in one last time, and he was taken off life support 45 minutes ago. Phineas died shortly after, so even if Michelle forces herself to wake up, it's impossible to return being Phineas. If she chooses to log out, she can never return. Tom suggests that she should just stay and continue her life as a hotel manager. All she has to do is to play the part. Realizing that she has no other option, Michelle reluctantly signs the waiver. Before leaving, Tom reminds her not to break character, but if she chooses to log out, she still has time. Shortly after, the orb begins to count down from 10, and Michelle makes her final decision. Finally, downtime is over, and the city bursts into life. Michelle has chosen to stay in the synthetic world and continues her life as a hotel manager. Soon, Ellen walks into the lobby and asks for a room. Despite knowing that her world is a fake, Michelle chooses to find meaning in it and greets Ellen with a smile.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.